Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Meridian. He was looking at the stars through the big window when his communication officer spoke up. "Captain, we're getting a message from somewhere," said Officer Amy Bell. "It's not from Earth or any human ship." Jake walked over to her station. The Meridian was an exploration ship. They had been traveling through space for 3 months, looking for new planets and maybe new life, but they had never expected to find intelligent aliens. "Put it on the main screen," Jake said. The screen showed static at first. Then a voice came through. It was speaking a language Jake had never heard before. The computer was working hard to translate it. "This is Princess Lyra, Terran of the Zephyrian Empire," the translated voice said. "We request a meeting with the leaders of your ship. We wish to speak about peaceful relations between our peoples." Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was staring at the screen with wide eyes. Dr. Lisa Carter, their science officer, stepped forward. "Captain, this is incredible," she said. "We're making first contact with an alien species." Jake nodded. He knew this was important. This could change everything for humanity, but he also knew they had to be careful. "Send a reply," he told Amy. "Tell them we accept their request for a meeting. Ask where and when." Answer came back quickly. "We will meet on the neutral moon called Sanctuary Prime. It is safe for both our species. We will arrive in 2 standard days." Jake called a meeting with his senior officers. Dr. Lisa Carter came to the meeting room along with Commander Ryan Hughes, who was in charge of security. Ambassador Kate Williams also joined them. She was the one who knew the most about dealing with other cultures. "This is what we've been hoping for," Kate said, "but we need to be very careful. We don't know anything about their culture or their intentions." "What do we know about the Zephyrians?" Jake asked Lisa. Lisa looked at her tablet. "Not much. Our long-range sensors picked up some information about their empire. They seem to control several star systems. Their technology appears to be more advanced than ours." Ryan crossed his arms. "That could be a problem if things go wrong. We have to assume they want peace." Jake said. "They asked for a meeting instead of just attacking us. That's a good sign." The next 2 days passed quickly. The crew prepared for the meeting. Lisa studied what little information they had about alien biology. Kate reviewed everything she knew about diplomacy and first contact procedures. Ryan made sure the ship's defenses were ready just in case. When they arrived at Sanctuary Prime, Jake felt nervous. The moon was small and had a thin atmosphere, but it could support human life. There was a small outpost there that had been built by an unknown alien race long ago. It was neutral territory. Jake put on his best uniform. He chose a small team to go with him to the surface. Lisa would study the aliens. Kate would handle the diplomatic talks. Ryan would protect them if needed. They took a small shuttle down to the outpost. The building was strange, made of smooth metal that seemed to glow softly. Inside there were rooms with chairs and tables that could adjust to fit different body types. "They should be here soon," Kate said, checking her watch. Then the air in the room began to shimmer. Jake had heard about transport technology, but he had never seen it before. The shimmer grew brighter and suddenly 3 figures appeared in the room. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He had tried to imagine what aliens might look like, but nothing had prepared him for this. The aliens were tall and elegant. Their skin seemed to be made of crystal that caught the light and threw it back in beautiful patterns. Their faces were similar to humans, but more refined, with large eyes that seemed to hold starlight when they moved. Colors flowed across their skin like water. One in the center stepped forward. She was clearly the leader. Her skin was a pale blue that shifted to silver when she moved. She wore robes that seemed to be made of light itself. "I am Princess Lyra Taryn," she said. Her voice was like music with tones that seemed to resonate in Jake's chest. "These are my advisors, High Chancellor Keith Moore and Scholar Zarin." Jake found himself staring. He had never seen anything so beautiful in his life. For a moment he forgot how to speak. Kate stepped forward and saved him. "Your Highness, I am Ambassador Kate Williams. This is Captain Jake Morrison, Dr. Lisa Carter, and Commander Ryan Hughes. We are honored to meet you." Princess Lyra nodded gracefully. "We are pleased to make contact with your species. We have watched your ships exploring this region of space. We are curious about your people. We're curious about yours too," Jake managed to say. His voice sounded rough compared to hers. The princess tilted her head slightly. "Your people seem very different from ours. We sense strong emotions from you, even from here. It is an unusual." High Chancellor Keith Moore, an older alien with darker crystal skin, stepped forward. "Your Highness, perhaps we should begin the formal protocols." "Of course," the princess said. "Captain Morrison, we propose a cultural exchange. We will share knowledge about our civilizations. In return, we hope to learn about humanity." Jake nodded. "That sounds reasonable. What kind of exchange did you have in mind?" "We would like to visit your ship and observe your people," she said. "You may visit one of our vessels as well. We believe understanding between our species will benefit both of us." As they talked, Jake found it hard to concentrate. Every time Princess Lyra spoke, her skin changed colors in patterns he couldn't understand. Her voice had layers of meaning that the translator couldn't capture. He had never encountered anything so fascinating or beautiful. Captain Kate's voice brought him back to the conversation. "Sorry," Jake said. "Could you repeat that?" Princess Lyra looked at him with what might have been amusement. "I asked if you would be comfortable hosting me and my advisors on your ship tomorrow." "Yes, of course," Jake said quickly. "We would be honored." The meeting continued for another hour. They discussed basic safety protocols and cultural guidelines. Jake tried to focus on the important details, but he kept getting distracted by the way the princess moved and spoke. When the meeting ended, the aliens prepared to transport back to their ship. Princess Lyra looked directly at Jake. "Thank you for agreeing to this exchange, Captain Morrison. I look forward to learning about your people." "So do I," Jake replied. I look forward to you learning about us and us learning about you." She smiled and her skin flashed with golden light. Then she and her advisors disappeared in another shimmer of transported energy. Kate looked at Jake with a knowing expression. "That went well, Captain." "Yes," Jake said, still staring at the spot where the princess had been standing. "Very well." Ryan chuckled. "Captain, you might want to review the cultural briefings before tomorrow. Something tells me this is going to be more complicated than a normal diplomatic mission." Jake nodded, but his mind was already thinking about seeing Princess Lyra again. He had a feeling Ryan was right about things getting complicated. The next morning, Jake stood in the main docking bay of the Meridian. He had spent most of the night reading about alien cultures and first contact procedures, but nothing in the manuals had prepared him for meeting someone like Princess Lyra. Dr. Lisa Carter was setting up her equipment. Nearby, she wanted to scan the aliens too. Learn about their biology. Commander Ryan Hughes was checking the security systems one more time. Ambassador Kate Williams was reviewing her notes about diplomatic protocol. Remember everyone, Kate said, we need to be very careful about cultural differences. What seems normal to us might be offensive to them. The air in the docking bay began to shimmer. Jake straightened his uniform and tried to look professional. The three Zephyrians appeared in flashes of light. Princess Lyra looked around the docking bay with interest. Her skin was a soft green color today, shifting to blue when she turned her head. Hi. Chancellor Kethmore stood beside her, his expression serious. Scholar Zarin was taking notes on a device that looked like flowing water. Welcome aboard the Meridian, Jake said. We're honored to have you here. Thank you, Captain Morrison, Princess Lyra replied. Her voice still had that musical quality that made Jake's heart beat faster. Your ship is quite different from ours. We build with living crystal that grows into the shapes we need. Your metal construction is very solid. Kate stepped forward. Would you like a tour of our ship? We can show you how humans live and work in space. That would be most educational, the princess said. They started in the main corridor. Jake explained how the ship was organized into different sections. Princess Lyra asked many questions about human technology. She seemed especially interested in how they generated artificial gravity. Your people use rotating sections, she observed. We create gravity fields directly. It is more efficient, but perhaps less elegant than your solution, High Chancellor. Keithmore looked around with obvious disapproval. Their methods are quite primitive, he said to Princess Lyra in their own language. The translator picked it up and converted it to English. Jake felt his face get hot. I'm sorry, our technology isn't as advanced as yours. Princess Lyra turned to her advisor with flashing orange skin. Keithmore, that was rude. Captain Morrison and his people are our guests, and we are theirs. Of course, Your Highness, the Chancellor said, but he didn't look sorry. They continued the tour. Lisa showed them the science labs and explained how humans studied space and planets. The princess was fascinated by their microscopes and computers. You use these machines to see very small things, she asked. Yes, Lisa explained. We can look at tiny pieces of matter and even living cells. Princess Lyra's skin turned bright yellow with excitement. May I try? Lisa set up a sample for her to look at. When the princess looked through the microscope, her skin cycled through dozens of colors very quickly. This is amazing, she said. We have similar technology, but it connects directly to our minds, using your eyes and hands to operate it is very personal. They moved on to the cafeteria where some of the crew was eating lunch. The humans stared openly at their alien visitors. Princess Lyra didn't seem to mind, but High Chancellor Keithmore looked uncomfortable. Your people show their emotions very openly, the Chancellor said. It is quite chaotic. How do your people express emotions? Jake asked. Princess Lyra gestured to Her skin, our feelings show in our colors and in the harmonics of our voices, but we are taught to control these displays from a young age. Emotional control is very important in our society. That sounds lonely, Jake said without thinking. The princess stopped walking. Her skin went completely still, showing only a pale silver color. Lonely, Kate quickly stepped in. What the captain means is that humans value emotional expression. We believe feelings should be shared, not hidden. Fascinating, Princess Lyra said. Perhaps you could explain this better. I would like to understand. They went to the observation deck where windows showed the stars outside. Princess Lyra stood looking out at space, while Jake tried to explain human emotions for us. Showing how we feel is a way of connecting with each other. He said, if I'm happy, I smile. If I'm sad, I might cry. If I'm angry, people can see it in my face. And in this brings you closer together, she asked. Usually, yes. When we share our feelings, we understand each other better. Princess Lyra was quiet for a moment. Her skin slowly shifted from silver to a soft purple. In my culture, showing strong emotions is considered a sign of weakness. Only children and the mentally unstable display their feelings openly. That's very different from us, Jake said. We think hiding your feelings all the time would be unhealthy. Can you give me an example of human emotional directness? The princess asked. Jake thought for a moment. This was dangerous territory, but she seemed genuinely curious. Well, for instance, when humans see something beautiful, we say so. We don't analyze it or think about whether it's appropriate. We just express what we feel. Show me, she said. Jake looked at her standing by the window. The starlight was reflecting off her crystal skin, making her glow like a living jewel. Her large eyes held depth he couldn't understand. She was the most beautiful being he had ever seen, and suddenly he couldn't pretend otherwise. Well, he said, his voice getting quiet, if I were being completely honest right now, I'd tell you that you're so beautiful I can't speak. Words came out before he could stop them. The universal translator converted them into her language, and Princess Lyra went completely still. Her skin stopped changing colors. She stopped breathing. She just stood there staring at him with wide eyes. The silence stretched on and on. Jake realized he had made a terrible mistake. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean to offend you. I was just trying to give you an example of how humans express themselves. But Princess Lyra didn't answer. Her skin was cycling through colors so fast it looked like a rainbow. Her breathing was quick and shallow. High Chancellor Keithmore rushed over. Your Highness, are you well? He looked at Jake with anger. What did you say to her? Kate stepped between them. It was just an example of human directness. Captain Morrison meant no disrespect. What exactly did he say? Scholar Zerlin asked, her device recording everything. Kate explained, and both aliens looked shocked. Keithmore's skin turned dark red. Do you understand what you have done? He demanded of Jake. In our culture, such words are only spoken between bonded pairs. You have made a declaration of deep emotional connection. I didn't know, Jake said, feeling panic rise in his chest. I was just trying to explain human honesty. Princess Lyra finally spoke, her voice very soft. In all my life, no one has ever spoken to me that way. Royal protocol forbids such directness. Even my closest advisors would never. She trailed off, still staring at Jake. Your Highness, Keithmore said urgently, we should return to our ship immediately. This human has violated cultural protocols, but Princess Lyra shook her head. No, I want to understand this better, Captain Morrison. You said those words simply because you believed them to be true. Yes, Jake said. I didn't think about protocol or what was appropriate. I just said what I felt. And this is normal for humans. Very normal, Kate confirmed. We value honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Princess Lyra looked out at the stars again. Her skin was now a deep blue that Jake hadn't seen before. How strange, she said. How wonderful and terrifying and strange. Keithmore stepped closer to her. Your Highness, we really should discuss this privately. Yes, she agreed, but not yet. I want to learn more about human emotional expression. This honesty, it is unlike anything our culture. She turned back to Jake. Your words have confused me, Captain Morrison, but they have also given me much to think about. I would like to continue our cultural exchange. Jake nodded, not trusting himself to speak again. However, she continued, I think we need to establish some guidelines. Your emotional directness is clearly very powerful. We must be careful how we proceed. For the rest of the visit, Princess Lyra asked many questions about human feelings and expressions. She watched the crew interact with each other, fascinated by their casual displays of emotion. When it was time for the aliens to leave, she paused at the transport point. Captain Morrison, she said, what you said to me today in my culture, it would require a response. But I do not know how to respond in yours. You don't need to respond. Jake said. I spoke from my heart. That's enough for me. Princess Lyra's skin flashed gold again. Your heart, she repeated. Yes, I'm beginning to understand. After they left, Kate looked at Jake with concern. Captain, I think you may have started something we don't fully understand. Jake nodded, still looking at the spot where Princess Lyra had been standing. I think you're right, but somehow I'm not sorry I said it. Brian clapped him on the shoulder. Well, Captain, you've definitely made this first contact more interesting than anyone expected. Jake couldn't argue with that. Jake was in his quarters, writing his daily report, when Amy Bell called him from the bridge. Captain, the Zephyrians are requesting another meeting, she said, but this time they want to meet on their ship. Jake felt his stomach tighten. After what happened yesterday, he wasn't sure if this was good news or bad news. Did they say why? No, sir. Princess Lyra just said it was important. Jake gathered his team again. Kate looked worried as they walked to the shuttle bay. Captain, I've been thinking about what happened yesterday, she said. When you told the princess she was beautiful, you may have accidentally proposed marriage in their culture. What? Jake stopped walking. Are you serious? I've been studying their culture all night, Kate continued. From what I can understand, direct emotional declarations are only made between life partners. You might have accidentally asked her to marry you. Ryan whistled. That's one way to create an interstellar incident. This is not funny, Lisa said. If we've offended their royal family, it could mean war. Jake ran his hand through his hair. Let's just go see what they want. Maybe we can fix this. The shuttle ride to the Zephyrian ship was quiet. Jake stared out the window at their vessel. It looked like a giant crystal that had been carved by artists. It was beautiful and alien and completely unlike anything humans had ever built. When they docked, Princess Lyra was waiting for them, but this time she was not alone. Several other Zephyrians stood behind her, all with serious expressions. Jake noticed that none of them had the shifting colors in their skin that he had seen before. They all looked very controlled. Captain Morrison, Princess Lyra said. Her voice was different too, more formal and distant. Thank you for coming. We need to discuss what happened yesterday. She led them through corridors that glowed with soft light. The walls seemed to be alive, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Jake had never seen architecture like this. They entered a large room with a curved ceiling that showed images of stars and planets. Several Zahirians were seated around a curved table. High Chancellor Keithmore was there along with others that Jake hadn't met. Captain Morrison, one of the new aliens, said, I am Lord Commander Velterin, Princess Lyra's father and ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. Jake felt his heart skip. He was meeting an alien emperor, and he had apparently insulted the man's daughter. Your Majesty, Jake said, bowing slightly, I'm honored to meet you. Sit, the emperor said. It wasn't really a request. Jake and his team sat down. The chairs adjusted automatically to fit their bodies, which was disconcerting. Yesterday, the emperor began. You made a statement to my daughter that has caused great confusion in our court. Do you understand the significance of your words? I'm beginning to, Jake said carefully. I meant no disrespect. I was simply trying to explain human culture. Human culture, High Chancellor Cathamore said with disgust. Primitive emotional outbursts with no regard for proper protocol. Princess Lyra, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke up. Father Chancellor Kth Moore, I must say something. Her skin began to show colors again, soft blues and greens that flowed like water. Captain Morrison's words were not an insult, she said. They were illuminating. The emperor's eyebrows rose. In Zephyrian culture, that was apparently a sign of surprise. Explain, he said. Princess Lyra stood up. For my entire life, I have been surrounded by people who speak in careful, measured words. Everything is planned and proper and controlled. But yesterday, this human spoke to me with complete honesty. He said what he felt without thinking about politics or protocol. And you found this appropriate? Keithmore asked. I found it refreshing, she replied. Her skin was now showing bright yellows and oranges. Do you know what it's like to never hear an honest emotional response? To always wonder if people are speaking truth or just saying what they think you want to hear? The emperor leaned forward. Lyra, you're forgetting yourself. Emotional control is what separates us from lower species, is it? Princess Lyra asked, or does it separate us from feeling anything real? Jake watched this family argument with growing alarm. He was clearly causing problems in their royal family. Your Majesty, he said, I take full responsibility for any offense I've caused. If there's a way to make this right, please tell me. The emperor looked at him for a long moment. The problem, Captain Morrison, is that in our culture, what you said constitutes a formal bonding proposal. My daughter should respond with either acceptance or rejection. Instead, she has asked for this meeting to discuss human emotions. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. I definitely didn't mean to propose marriage, nevertheless, Kethmore said. The words were spoken according to our laws. Princess Lyra must give an answer. Princess Lyra's skin flashed red. Our Laws are outdated. I refuse to be bound by ancient traditions that make no sense. In this situation, Lyra the Emperor said sharply, "No, father, listen to me." She turned to address the whole room. "Captain Morrison has shown me something important. His people express their feelings openly and honestly. They don't hide behind formal words and careful protocols. Maybe we could learn from them." An older Jirian at the table spoke up. "Your Highness, emotional chaos is not something to admire. It leads to poor decisions and social disorder." "Does it?" Princess Lyra asked. "Captain Morrison, how do your people make important decisions?" Jake looked at Kate, who nodded for him to answer. "We talk about our feelings and opinions openly," he said. "We debate and argue and express our concerns. Then we try to find solutions that work for everyone." "And this works?" the Emperor asked. "Most of the time," Jake said. "It's not perfect, but it means everyone gets heard." Princess Lyra turned back to her father. "Don't you see? We could benefit from more honest communication. How many times have you wondered what your advisors really think? How many times have important concerns been hidden because of protocol?" The room was quiet for several minutes. Jake could see the Zapirians thinking about what she had said. Finally, the Emperor spoke. "Lyra, you are suggesting we change centuries of tradition based on one conversation with an alien. I'm suggesting we consider that our traditions might not be perfect," she replied. "Captain Morrison's honesty didn't offend me. It made me realize how much I miss hearing real feelings and thoughts." Keithmore stood up angrily. "This is exactly why emotional expression is dangerous. It leads to poor judgment and rash decisions." "Is it rash to want honesty?" Princess Lyra asked. "Is it poor judgment to value authentic communication?" She turned to Jake. "Captain Morrison, I have a proposal for you, not the kind your words accidentally made, but a different kind. I want to spend more time learning about human culture and emotions. I want to understand how your people communicate so openly without their society falling apart." Jake looked at Kate, who shrugged slightly. "I think that could be arranged," Jake said. "We'd be happy to share our culture with you." "Absolutely not," Kethmore said. "Your Highness, spending more time with these emotional primitives would be inappropriate and dangerous." Princess Lyra's skin flashed bright red. "Dangerous? Keithmore, you've been my advisor for 10 years. In all that time, have you ever once told me what you really think about anything important? Have you ever given me advice based on your honest feelings instead of what you think is politically correct?" Keith opened his mouth, then closed it. "That's what I thought," Princess Lyra said. "Captain Morrison told me exactly what he thought in one sentence. You've never been that honest with me in a decade." The Emperor raised his hand for silence. "This discussion has become quite heated. Perhaps we should take a break to consider these ideas." "Father." Princess Lyra said, "I want to formally request permission to continue studying human culture. I believe there is much we can learn from their emotional directness." "And I formally object," Cathmore said. "This is exactly the kind of impulsive decision that emotional thinking leads to." The Emperor looked tired. "Lyra, if I allow this, what exactly are you proposing?" "I want to spend time on the human ship, observing how they interact and make decisions. I want to learn about their art and music and literature. I want to understand how they can be so emotionally open without losing their ability to function as a society. Jake felt both excited and terrified. Having Princess Lyra on his ship would be amazing, but it would also be incredibly complicated. Your Majesty, he said, we would be honored to host Princess Lyra for a cultural exchange. We in LT, UNC, and GT, LL do everything we can to help her understand human culture. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. Very well, Lyra, you may spend 1 week on the human ship, but you will be accompanied by advisors, and you will report to me daily. Thank you, Father, Princess Lyra said. Her skin was now glowing with golden light. Keithmore looked furious. Your Majesty, I must protest this decision. Your protest is noted, the Emperor said, but my daughter has made a compelling argument. Perhaps it is time we learned more about our new neighbors. As they prepared to leave, Princess Lyra approached Jake. Captain Morrison, she said quietly, thank you for showing me that honesty doesn't have to be dangerous. Thank you for being willing to listen, Jake replied. She smiled and her skin flashed with warm colors. I'm looking forward to learning more about your people and perhaps about you. Jake felt his heart race. This cultural Princess Lyra arrived on the Meridian the next morning with 3 advisors. Keithmore was one of them, looking unhappy about the entire situation. The other 2 were Scholar Zerilyn, who seemed excited about studying humans, and Commander Thanner, a military advisor, who watched everything with suspicious eyes. Jake had prepared guest quarters for them, but Princess Lyra was more interested in seeing how the crew lived and worked. I want to understand your daily life, she told Jake as they walked through the corridors. How do humans interact when they're not trying to impress alien royalty? That might be difficult, Jake said. Everyone's pretty nervous about having you here. Then we must make them comfortable, she said. Her skin was a calm blue-green today, and Jake was starting to understand that this meant she was curious and relaxed. They started in the cafeteria during breakfast. Princess Lyra watched the crew eating and talking. She was fascinated by how casually they expressed their opinions. On our ships, she explained to Jake, meals are quiet and formal. Everyone eats in rank order, and conversation is limited to official business. At a nearby table, 2 engineers were having a friendly argument about the best way to repair a sensor array. Their voices were getting louder and they were gesturing with their hands. Are they fighting? Princess Lyra asked. Concerned. No, Jake laughed. They're just discussing different ideas. This is normal for humans. As they watched, the 2 engineers came to an agreement and shook hands. One of them bought the other a cup of coffee. They disagreed, argued about it, and then became friends. Again, Princess Lyra asked, basically. Yes, we call it agreeing to disagree. Sometimes humans can have strong opinions about things without it ruining their relationships. Keithmore, who was listening nearby, made a disgusted sound. Chaos, he muttered. Princess Lyra turned to him with flashing orange skin. Keithmore, when was the last time anyone disagreed with you about anything? Disagreement is inappropriate between ranks, he replied stiffly. But how do you know if your ideas are good if no one ever challenges them? She asked. Keithmore didn't have an answer for that. Later, Jake took Princess Lyra to see Dr. Lisa Carter in the medical bay. Lisa was treating a crew member who had injured his hand in an accident. Does it Hurt? Lisa asked the injured man. Yeah. It really hurts, he replied, wincing as she examined his hand. I'm going to give you something for the pain, Lisa said. And next time please use the safety protocols we discussed. I will, dog. Thanks. After the crew member left, Princess Lyra looked confused. Your doctor asked about his pain and he told her the truth, she said. On our ships, admitting to pain or weakness is considered shameful. That's terrible. Lisa said, how can doctors treat patients if people won't tell them what's wrong? We use medical scanners to detect problems, Princess Lyra explained. We don't rely on patient testimony. But what about emotional pain or stress? Lisa asked. How do you treat things that scanners can't detect? Princess Lyra was quiet for a moment. We don't. Mental distress is considered a personal failure that should be handled privately. Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. No wonder the Zapparians seemed so controlled all the time. They were taught that showing any vulnerability was wrong. Can I show you something? Lisa asked. She led them to her office, where she had pictures on the wall of her family and friends. This is my daughter, Lisa said, pointing to a photo of a young girl. She's 8 years old and she's the most important thing in my life. When I'm sad or scared or worried about something, I talk to my husband about it. He helps me feel better and I help him when he's struggling. Princess Lyra stared at the pictures. You share your weaknesses with others. We don't think of them as weaknesses, Lisa said. We think of them as being human. Everyone has fears and worries. Sharing them with people we trust makes us stronger, not weaker. This is exactly the kind of primitive thinking that holds your species back, Keithmore interrupted. Princess Lyra's skin flashed red. Primitive? Keithmore. Dr. Carter seems perfectly capable of doing her job while also having meaningful relationships. How is that primitive? Emotional attachments cloud judgment, he replied. Do they? Princess Lyra asked. She turned to Lisa. Dr. Carter, does caring about your family make you a worse doctor? Just the opposite, Lisa said. Caring about people makes me want to save lives. My love for my daughter makes me work harder to help other parents keep their children safe. Princess Lyra nodded slowly. Love makes you stronger, not weaker. For humans, yes, Lisa said. Love, friendship, hope, these emotions give us motivation and purpose. That afternoon, Jake took Princess Lyra to the recreation room where some of the crew was playing music. A young officer named Ben was playing guitar while others sang along. The songs were about home and family and love and loss. Princess Lyra listened with fascination. Her skin was cycling through colors Jake had never seen before, deep purples and warm golds. Your music is so emotional, she said. It makes me feel things I don't understand. What kinds of things? Jake asked. Sadness, but also happiness, longing for something I've never had. Is this normal? Very normal, Jake said. Music is supposed to make you feel things. That's the whole point. We have music too, she said, but it's very different. It's mathematically perfect and designed to promote calm thinking. It doesn't make us feel like this. Ben finished his song and noticed Princess Lyra watching. Would you like to try? He asked, offering her the guitar. Keithmore stepped forward quickly. Your Highness, that would be inappropriate, but Princess Lyra took the guitar anyway. Show me how it works. Ben taught her few simple chords. When she played them, The sound was beautiful but strange. Her alien fingers could reach positions that human hands couldn't, creating harmonies that were hauntingly lovely. Play something from your heart, Ben. Encouraged, Princess Lyra closed her eyes and played. The music that came out was unlike anything Jake had ever heard. It was sad and beautiful and full of longing. It spoke of isolation and the desire for connection. When she finished, everyone in the room was quiet. That was incredible, Ben said softly. Princess Lyra's eyes were wet. Jake realized she was crying, though her tears were silver instead of clear. I didn't know I could feel so much, she whispered. Keithmore looked horrified. Your Highness, please control yourself. This emotional display is unseemly. Princess Lyra stood up suddenly, her skin flashing bright red. Unseemly. Cathmore, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm actually alive. How is that unseemly? Because it's undignified, he replied. You are royalty. You cannot behave like a common person. Why not? She demanded. What makes being royal so special if it means I can never feel anything real? The room was very quiet. The human crew was watching this argument with fascination and concern. Jake stepped forward. Carefully, Your Highness, maybe we should continue this conversation in private. Princess Lyra nodded and followed him to his quarters. Keithmore tried to come too, but she told him to wait outside. I'm sorry about that, she said once they were alone, but I'm starting to understand why my people have become so isolated from the rest of the galaxy. What do you mean? Jake asked. We've become so focused on control and perfection that we've forgotten how to really live, she said. Your people argue and cry and love and create beautiful, imperfect music. You're messy and emotional and real. We're like living statues. She sat down on his couch, her skin a soft, sad blue. Can I tell you something? She asked. Of course. When you told me I was beautiful, it wasn't just the words that affected me. It was the way you said them. I could hear in your voice that you meant them completely. There was no calculation, no hidden agenda, just pure honest feeling. Jake sat down across from her. That's how humans express themselves. We say what we mean. In my culture, every word is chosen carefully. Every expression is controlled. I've never heard anyone speak to me the way you did, with such openness. Is that good or bad? Jake asked. Princess Lyra smiled and her skin glowed with warm gold. It's wonderful and terrifying and completely new. They talked for hours. Princess Lyra told Jake about her lonely life as a royal, surrounded by people who never spoke honestly to her. Jake told her about human relationships, about friendship and love, and the courage it takes to be vulnerable with another person. Your people risk emotional pain to gain emotional connection, she said. That's very brave. We think it's worth it, Jake said. Life without real connections would be pretty empty. Yes, she said quietly. Yes, it would be. When Princess Lyra finally left his quarters, Jake felt like something important had changed between them. She wasn't just a beautiful alien princess anymore. She was becoming a friend, maybe something more. The next day, Princess Lyra asked to attend a staff meeting. Jake was nervous about this, but she insisted. I want to see how humans make decisions together, she said. The meeting was about whether to continue exploring this region of space or return to Earth to report their contact with the Zapirians. The debate was intense, with people expressing strong opinions on both sides. Commander Ryan Hughes thought they should return to Earth immediately. We're not equipped for extended diplomatic contact, he argued. We need guidance from command. Dr. Lisa Carter disagreed. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to Princess Lyra's last day. Aboard the Meridian, Jake found her in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Her skin was a deep blue that he had learned meant she was thinking about serious things. You're sad to leave, he said, sitting down beside her. Very sad, she admitted. This week has changed everything for me. I understand now what I've been missing my whole life. What's that real connection? She said. Your people connect with each other in ways mine never do. You share your fears and hopes and dreams. You support each other through difficult times. You celebrate together when things go well. Jake nodded. That's what makes life worth living for us. Princess Lyra turned to look at him. Can I tell you something I've never told anyone? Of course, I've been lonely my entire life, she said. Her skin shifted to soft purple, surrounded by people but completely alone. No one has ever spoken to me the way you and your crew have this week, with honesty and warmth and genuine caring. I'm sorry, Jake said. That sounds awful. It was, but now I know it doesn't have to be that way. She stood up and walked to the window. Jake, I want to ask you something, and I want you to give me a completely honest answer, okay? Do you think it would be possible for our two peoples to really become friends, not just political allies, but genuine friends who understand and care about each other? Jake thought about it. I think it would be possible, but it would require both sides to be willing to change. What kind of changes? Your people would need to learn to be more open with their feelings, and my people would need to learn to be more respectful of your traditions. It would take time and patience from everyone. Princess Lyra was quiet for several minutes, then she turned to him with determination in her eyes. I want to propose something to both our governments, she said. A formal cultural exchange program, not just diplomats and scientists, but ordinary people learning to live and work together. That's a big idea, Jake said. Do you think your father would approve? I don't know, but I have to try. Her skin was now glowing with bright gold. This week has shown me that our species have so much to offer each other. Your emotional honesty could teach my people how to really connect. Our advanced technology could help your people solve problems and explore new worlds. Jake felt excitement building in his chest. You're talking about a real partnership between our species. Exactly, but not the kind where we just trade resources and information. The kind where we actually become friends. Before Jake could respond, Amy Bell's voice came over the intercom. Captain Morrison, please report to the bridge. We're receiving a message from the Zapirian Emperor. Jake and Princess Lyra exchanged glances. This could be about your week here, Jake said. They hurried to the bridge where the Emperor's image was waiting on the main screen. He looked serious, and Jake noticed that several other Zirian officials were with him. Captain Morrison, the Emperor said, I trust my daughter has been treated well during her stay. Yes, Your Majesty. Princess Lyra has been a wonderful guest. I'm glad to hear it. Lyra, you will return to our ship immediately. We have much to discuss. Princess Lyra stepped forward. Father, I have a proposal to make to both you and Captain Morrison's government, the Emperor's Eyebrows rose. Oh, I want to establish a permanent cultural exchange between our peoples, not just diplomatic visits, but real integration. Zephyrians living and working alongside humans, learning from each other. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Behind him, Jake could see Keithmore shaking his head disapprovingly. Lyra, this is a very ambitious idea. What makes you think such a program would benefit our people? Princess Lyra's skin began to glow as she spoke. Father, this week I've learned things about leadership and communication that I never learned in all my years of royal education. These humans make decisions together, share their burdens, and support each other. Through difficulties, they've created a society that's both efficient and emotionally fulfilling, and you believe we should emulate them. I believe we should learn from them as they could learn from us. Father, when was the last time anyone in our court spoke to you with complete honesty? When was the last time you made a decision knowing that everyone affected by it had been heard? The Emperor considered this. You're suggesting our decision-making process is flawed. I'm suggesting it could be improved. Princess Lyra's voice was strong and confident. Captain Morrison, tell my father how you handled the decision about whether to continue this cultural exchange. Jake stepped forward nervously. Your Majesty, I gathered input from all my senior officers. We discussed the risks and benefits openly. Everyone was free to express their opinions, even if they disagreed with me. And this led to a better decision. I believe so, yes. When people feel heard, they're more committed to making the final decision work. The Emperor looked thoughtful. This is very different from our methods, different but effective. Princess Lyra said, Father, in 1 week I've seen more genuine problem solving and teamwork than I've seen in years on our ships. Keithmore finally spoke up. Your Majesty, I must object to this entire discussion. Princess Lyra has been influenced by alien thinking. This emotional approach to decision-making is dangerous and primitive. Princess Lyra turned to face him directly. Keith, in 10 years as my advisor, have you ever once told me what you really thought about an important decision? And GT, have you ever warned me when you thought I was making a mistake? And GT, it is not my place to question royal judgment, he replied stiffly. And that's exactly the problem, she said. How can anyone make good decisions if their advisors won't give them honest feedback? She turned back to the screen. Father, Captain Morrison told me I was beautiful, and it changed everything, not because of the compliment itself, but because it was the first time anyone had spoken to me with complete honesty. No hidden agenda, no careful calculation of what I wanted to hear, just truth. The Emperor looked at Jake with interest. Captain Morrison, is this accurate? You spoke to my daughter so directly. Jake felt his face get hot. Yes, Your Majesty, I was trying to explain human emotional expression, and I spoke without thinking about protocol. And how did my daughter respond? She was surprised at first, but then she became curious about how humans communicate so openly. The Emperor was quiet for several minutes. Finally, he spoke. Lyra, your proposal is intriguing, but it would represent a significant change in how our people interact with other species. Yes, Father, that's exactly what we need. Very well, I will consider establishing a trial program, a small group of volunteers from both species working together for an extended period to see if this cultural integration is truly beneficial. Princess Lyra's skin exploded with golden light. Thank you. Father, you won't regret this, I hope. Not the Emperor said. Captain Morrison, would your government be interested in such a program? Jake looked at Kate, who nodded enthusiastically. I believe they would be very interested, Your Majesty. This could be the beginning of a real partnership between our peoples. Then let us begin planning. Princess Lyra, you will lead the Zahirian side of this program. Captain Morrison, I assume you would be willing to lead the human side. It would be an honor, Jake said. After the transmission ended, Princess Lyra grabbed Jake's hands, her skin shining like a star. We did it, she said. We're actually going to do this. You did it, Jake corrected. You convinced your father to try something completely new. I couldn't have done it without you, she said. You showed me what honest communication looks like. You gave me the courage to speak truthfully to my father. Jake felt his heart racing. Lyra, can I ask you something? Anything. When I told you that you were beautiful, I meant it, not just as an example of human directness. I really meant it. Princess Lyra's skin went through a cascade of colors: surprise, joy, warmth, and something Jake couldn't identify, but that made his heart soar. I know you meant it, she said softly. That's what made it so wonderful. And now that we're going to be working together, yes, Jake took a deep breath. Would you like to explore what a real friendship between a human and a Zephyrian might look like? Maybe something more than friendship. Princess Lyra smiled, and her skin glowed with the warm gold that Jake now knew meant happiness. I thought you'd never ask, she said. 6 months later, the first human Zephyrian cultural exchange station was established on Sanctuary Prime. Jake and Princess Lyra worked together to create new diplomatic protocols based on honesty and mutual respect rather than rigid formality. The program was more successful than anyone had expected. Humans learned to appreciate Zephyrian precision and advanced technology. Zapparians learned to value human emotional authenticity and collaborative decision-making. But the most important success was personal. Jake and Princess Lyra had become partners in every sense of the word, proving that honest communication could bridge any gap between different peoples. You know, Lyra said one day, as they watched human and Zephyrian children playing together in the station's park, if you hadn't told me I was beautiful that first day, none of this would have happened. Are you glad I did? Jake asked. Lyra's skin shimmered with all the colors of joy. More glad than I can express in any language. Jake smiled and took her hand. Then maybe sometimes the best diplomacy is just telling